What up guys, JR Juggernaut1 here, and welcome to another daily discussion. Yes, I have not done one of these in a while, and I thought today would be a good day to try and make one. So, it's pretty obvious based on what you're seeing here that yes, I'm going to be talking about scraps. But briefly though, because I don't want this video to be too long and I don't want you guys to be bored. So, what's the main deal with scraps? Why are scraps so awesome? Well, I'll get to that shortly, but let's talk about what scraps are mainly about. Now, scraps are basically all about, well, let's face it, combos. They're all about spamming the field with monsters and just repeating the process over and over and over. I mean, the scrap archetype, though, let's be honest, in some way, it can be pretty hit or miss. I mean, you've got Scrap Golem and Scrap Storm, which are obviously essential cards to the Scrap archetype, as well as Scrap Beast and Scrap Dragon. But you've also got the crappy cards, like Guts of Steel, which really does not work at all in Scraps, although I think people at one point thought it would, and Scrap Hunter, which I have no idea why it was even made in the first place. I understand what the idea was. Okay, you can destroy one of your own scrap monsters and get another scrap monster back. But the effect itself is way too situational. And just like with Guts of Steel. Plus with Guts of Steel, you're losing 2 scraps from your graveyard, and that really sucks. But of course there's Scrap Dragon, who is probably the best scrap card to be released so far. Scrap Dragon is not only generic synchro, but he's the first generic synchro to have a straight up destruction effect that you can actually plus off of. Think about it, this card not only allows you to destroy your opponent's cards, but activate the effects of cards like Sangan, Dimensional Alchemist, Dandelion, and etc. It's pretty awesome. But how good is Scraps really on its own? Personally, in terms of like a generic scrap deck, I really don't know if it would be that competitive. I don't think it would be that competitive. To be honest, when I think of scraps, I kind of think of Lightsworn to some degree. Now, and I mean to some degree. Lightsworns are obviously much different in that they were able to stand on their own and that they were just freaking ridiculous. Scraps, on the other hand, I see not similar. I don't see a similarity in the level of strength the deck has, but more in the versatility of it. Keep in mind that Lightsworn has been splashed into numerous decks, and people have found new ways of combining the Lightsworn engine with other decks. Hell, there's even Scrapsworn. Scraps kind of have that same idea, but the thing is, there isn't really a generic formula for the best scrap deck. People have tried tinkering with the deck and try to create their own builds, which I think is really good, and that's one of the major pluses of it. I mean, but what's also interesting is that some people won't even use all of the scraps, and some people, they'll just use 2 beasts and 2 scrap chimeras, It's pretty strange the way they, decide to do it, Scrap Storm, though, is definitely one of those cards that really allows you to plus. You can use it on one of your scrap monsters, like one of the ideal places you go Scrap Beast, they try to bottomless Scrap Storm. I send Chimera to the grave, I draw a card, I get Chimera back, and yeah, pretty much do crazy things. But again, the whole problem is that it can't really run on its own. You need to incorporate some sort of extra engine to it. Personally, I prefer Scrap Keepers. I think Grave Keepers provide a really good field presence, while allowing your tuners, your scrap tuners, to really be used well. Some people are also thinking how Starstrike Blast is really going to affect this set, because, well, quite frankly, I didn't think the set was going to be playable until Starstrike Blast, with the addition of Scrap Searcher as well as Scrap Oil Zone. Now, there's also Scrap Lube, but believe me, I'm not getting into that. And I need to look up that effect again. But Scrap Oil Zone is one of those cards that can be helpful in setting up combos, but I think people hate it. Some people don't like it because it forces you to skip your battle phase, which you can really decide for yourself whether it's worth it or not. However, there's also the addition of Scrap Searcher, which, quite frankly, well, I don't know. I can see a player running one of it for three reasons. Number 1, it's a beater. Number 2, you can search for it with Scrapyard if you're desperate. And number 3, did I say 2 or 3? Yeah. Number 3, Most importantly, it actually provides you with an instant Scrap Twin Dragon if you summon it back with Scrap Chimera. So that's something to think about, but again, the problem is the card probably isn't consistent enough that you'd want to run more than one. I just think, though, if you're really desperate, okay, put it in the grave with Scrap Storm, for example. You know? You summon it, they try to bottomless it, boom, Scrap Storm. Just something to think about, that's all I'm saying. So yeah, Scraps, solid deck, at least when you combine it with other decks. I don't know how good it's actually going to be in the long run. If there's going to be a generic scrap deck formula that people are going to follow, who knows? What I do know is this is a fun deck to play, and it's nice to see that people have their own take on the deck. So, if you're looking to make your own build, by all means do it. But otherwise, maybe find the deck that really suits you. This is JR Juggernaut 1, signing out. Peace, guys.